Aloha and welcome back to another opponent preview episode of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast. Joe, what a wonderful day. Love is back. Let's start it off. We're starting anew, so unlike the previous recording, we're starting anew and Jordan Love is back, baby. How are you feeling about that?
Well, like we were trying to talk about until we had all kinds of audio issues and everything else. Um, I'm happy for it. I really think that there is a shot. This shows that Demovsky was not wrong in saying that the last week wasn't just smoke and mirrors. There's a legitimate chance of him. There was a legitimate chance of him playing last week. So that tells me there's a legitimate chance of him playing this week. I I I have no concerns, and I'm gonna kind of we would call this meta game this because we just tried to record a minute ago, but we were all having audio issues and everything. But just to meta game a little bit, you said that a couple of your concerns would be if
It's a
tomorrow
very
he doesn't.
tinfoil hat concern, but yeah, is if
Yeah,
Love gets the first team practice reps and then, steps wrong getting off the team plane or sleeps wrong on the team plane or whatever, and is like Sunday kick before kickoff, it's like, oh, I'm a no go, and Malik's like, well, shit, I only worked with the second team this week. Like, does that potentially, and a step further than that, how different is LaFleur's game plan between for Love and for Willis?
right. And then the other one you were talking about is if he doesn't practice tomorrow after practicing today.
Yeah.
All the concerns, and I get all the concerns, and I kind of have them too. But on the flip side, I'm not so worried about it because usually the next day is just to see how you feel. How do you feel after working out like that? If he feels good, then okay, maybe just do some light work and then go hard the next day. If he doesn't feel great, then all right, we'll rest it and we'll try it again the next day. So it's not a big concern on that one. And the other part of it with the Malik maybe only getting second if Jordan's taking the first. If it were me, I would, and it was me during setting up the practices, I would for sure set it up where Jordan was taking second string, the team two snaps, and Malik was taking one. Not because I think Malik is taking over the starting position, but it would allow Malik to continue to build with the one if he has to step up and play Sunday, and it allows Jordan to get back into reps and get him going to see how he goes from today or yesterday's or however you want to put it practice.
No, yeah, all very fair points, and like I said, those are like the super nitpicking concerns. It's good to see Love back out there. You were pointing out that there's it's not a demonstrative hitch in his giddy up or anything. You can see there's a slight gimp in his gait and stuff, but he could be just it could just be the way he walks. I honestly haven't ever watched how Jordan walks before the injury and stuff. Like, you wouldn't be able to tell. It's not like a, oh yeah, it's his left knee that's bum kind of thing right now. So good signs all around, and that's one of the big bits of information. And the good thing too is Malik Willis was asked about facing his so recently former team this week, and he had an excellent answer about it. He said like, "Hey, like it is what it is. No ill feelings." And the part of it that made me laugh, he goes, I think I got paid the whole time I was there, so I can't complain too much," which is like the best avoid bulletin material responses possible and all. And I think, just my way to read between the lines on it, it looks like a guy who like just truly, you know it's part of his journey, but he just appreciates very much the situation that he's in Green Bay, and he just knows that there's no need to really get into it with Tennessee because like this side of the pillow is so much cooler for him and stuff. So yeah.
Has been making the circles around today and yesterday. He's just an overall good person because there's the small video that somebody captured of him digging into. I don't know when this happened. If it was with Tennessee, if it was with Liberty, if it whenever, but there was a homeless guy on the corner, and he dug into his suitcase and pulled out a coat and gave it to, or he gave him his own coat or whatever it was. I didn't watch the clip, but I heard a lot of people talking about it.
I'm pretty sure they
And that
said it was at the combine. So
okay, yeah. So that just goes to show what kind of person he is. Uh, you know, of course he's not going to talk bad about anybody because that just seems like the type of person he is. So and as much as we love the trash talk and all that of people, it's better off that they don't say things because then that just reflects on them, and then the media flips it on them and says, "Oh well, this guy is talking shit and he can't back it up, and who does he think he is talking this crap?" And it just it doesn't kind of like our segment on our Tuesday shows, the shut the fuck up. That's when that shit starts happening. Is all right, guy, just shut the fuck up. But we don't want to hear it anymore. But there's not. I don't think anybody could have a bad thing to say about Malik Willis right now.
yep. So Packers are coming into this one little bit of a lengthier injury list than you'd like to see at this point in the season. But Lafleur kind of played it off by saying that excuse me, that they intended to give guys a little bit more rest this week, coming off of the unseasonably hot game in Green Bay, to which they're going to Tennessee, where it's in the high 80s, low 90s. That's the expected temperature for kickoff. So expect a lot of the same game time conditions as we saw in Green Bay last week Sunday. So they're trying to get guys kind of off their feet, get them hydrated. That hydration process starts in the week before, and didn't sound like they're overly concerned with too many injuries. Obviously you don't want to see Elton on there, but the hope is you hope that it's more the illness than the glute. I joke that the glute is because he sat down too hard trying to get over the illness, but um, you don't like seeing him and Morgan be on the injury list, but obviously we'll kind of track that as it goes through the week. But other than that,
It could be from the game because I know they said that he was another one that was throwing up during the game.
yeah.
It could still be he's dealing with some of that heat sickness.
Yeah. So DNPs were Elton, Jordan Morgan, Jaden Reed with a calf, which I believe is the same one as that popped up last week. So no real surprise, he got the day off. And then Carrington Valentine was out today as well with the ankle. And then Kenny Clark, Kingsley Enigbare, Josh Jacobs, Tucker Kraft, Jordan Love, Josh Myers, Zach Tom, and Rasheed Walker all were limited participants. But like we said, Lafleur didn't throw too much caution to the wind on those. He kind of was more beating the drum that this was just their way to kind of get guys a little bit extra time off. It's a little bit of a rough part in the schedule due to the weather, and they don't want to burn guys out this early in the season. So doesn't yeah.
Rasheed's got a shoulder. Morgan's got a shoulder. Tucker's got a shoulder. Is that going to be our this year's hamstring problem?
They worked so hard to get rid of the hamstring problems that they forgot the upper body. But nah, I do wonder. Like, obviously, I know that Tucker, it was a pec, but I wonder if that's all connected, kind of thing. Where the just like when it's a leg injury, how the leg thing travels. I'm just making suppositions. Morgan, that was what I haven't seen confirmation, but I'm going to assume it's the same shoulder that had him kind of out the back half of preseason. And then Rasheed, yeah, I don't remember seeing him really favorite during the game, but we will see what that turns out to be. But on the other side, the Titans on their end were pretty healthy. The two of their three DNPs were not injury related, just day off rest, and then Tajay Spears was the other one with an ankle. So Tennessee is coming in. They're 0-2. They're going to be a desperate team. You always say that when it's an opponent without a win, no matter how high or low expectations you had for that team. But Green Bay's got to expect the best punch from the Titans this week because they're looking for a win to, not get left behind in the AFC playoff picture, as realistic or unrealistic as that is. So, I only chuckle because, and sorry, the other the 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 only I chuckle as we get into the preview because um this is going to be a step up for the Green Bay offense against the Titans defense, but they go from one young struggling starting quarterback to another young struggling quarterback for wildly different extremes of the explanation. Whereas, I would argue that Richardson's was a lot of, inexperience at the position and, that, he missed most of his rookie year and stuff. Levis has started a bunch of games in college and he started like half the season last year for the Titans. And some of his errors are just, I mean, they would make mid 90s Brett Favre confused. And thank God Holmgren didn't coach Levis because I think Holmgren's brain would have fused in the middle of a game if he had to coach Levis. I'm honestly surprised it never happened to him with Favre, but man, like we make fun of the Jay Cutler stuff, Justin Fields stuff, and somehow Levis takes it to another level each week. You had the horrible interception return for a touchdown against the Bears that, for all intents and purposes, lost that game for the Titans. And then last week, same thing. They're inside the I'd say they're about low red zone, and he just doesn't want to take a sack, so he ice cream cone throws the ball right to a Jet defender, or I think he fumbled, and then the Jets recover it. To which his coach is like,
looked like he was trying to push it to Calvin.
I think so, but before he could push it, he got knocked and it fumbled or whatever. So yeah, you have that superb camera angle of from behind of Levis coming off the field to his coach going, what the fuck was that? So to which I'm sure we were all saying watching that. So Joe can't take any opponent less seriously, but I mean, this one is tailor made for the Packers to just wreak havoc on another opposing offense.
Well, I know it's the common stat going around, but isn't like the what's his name? Patet.
Petit Frere, yeah.
Yeah, isn't he like ranked like clear at the bottom for win rates?
Something like that, and he's giving up like 53% pressure or something on his pass blocking reps, and the Titans or and then I think it was more I can't find it right now, but Morley tweeted something that he Levis has been pressured on like 43% of his snaps, and his rating on snaps where he's pressured is like 44 or something like that, which is, as Morley he kind of jokingly pointed out, he's like, you like never see those stats within like that short of a percentage of each other. So it just shows like he's under a lot of duress and he does not make good decisions with the ball when he is under duress.
Well, and isn't the other tackle almost right there with? Yeah, so this should be a good game for the pass rush to get in there. Uh, Now they do have like Skoronsky and I just skipped over his name. The kid from North Dakota State, Dylan Radins.
Oh,
Uh,
Reddens, yeah.
so they do have guys there. It's just their bookends seem to be failing them more often than not. I know a lot of people keep talking about Pollard and Pollard and Pollard and Pollard and Pollard, but the running back that scares the life out of me is Spears. I love that kid so much coming out of college, and he's shown in the pros that he's got the ability to do whatever the hell he wants to do. That's got to be the guy to contain. Yeah, Pollard, you got to watch Pollard too, but Spears is definitely the one you've got to watch. Really, these wide receivers don't instill a lot of
So
fear.
they're all names that you kind of have known from being around. So you have Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, or like I said, the ghost of DeAndre Hopkins at this point, and then Tyler Boyd, formerly of the Bengals. So,
And then
um,
Treylon Burks.
yeah, yeah,
This is the Madden lineup you'd want, but in real life, you don't want to touch any of them just because
no,
they're
yeah,
not.
they're all at weird points in their careers, and the quarterback is just playing like hot garbage. Which per per Green Bay tradition means that Will Levis there's only two conditions. Will Levis is either going to throw 5 interception or he's going to go off for 475 yards and 4 touchdowns. There's no in between of it. So, but luckily the defense has been up to the task of turning opponents over. The stat that everyone has been throwing around is obviously not all interceptions are made equally, but the Packers are at 5 interceptions through 2 games when they had 7 through 17 regular season games last season. So they're going to look to keep that up. And as we've been pointing out, this O line should this Titans O line should allow them to continue doing so because um, it's just not a good group. I would flip a coin between Skoronski and Cushenberry being the best linemen. Radens has been like super up and down. Latham is a rookie who's playing way before he should, and Petit Frere has been just god awful. So,
Get a mysterious illness for Levis and Mason Rudolph comes in and the Packers come out.
possibly. I mean, Mayo, the Mayo went bad, but um, I
It keeps getting brought up. Mayo and coffee, man. That I don't know how that comes about.
yeah. So we'll see. Like I said, this on paper, this is a big matchup for the Packers defense against this Titans offense, and honestly, it might be really important for the defense to get 2 to 3 turnovers this game because as much as we can joke about the Titans offense, the Titans defense has been pretty solid this season. Granted, they have faced one horrible offense in the Bears and one very unsold offense in the Jets. Where so it's hard to say how good they are again, versus strength of opponent, but there's a bunch of names on this defense that ring pretty impressive when you collect them together. Their starting D line is a bunch of run stuffers. You have Jeffrey Simmons as the what's up?
A lot of beef.
Yeah, a lot of beef. Jeffrey Simmons is the headliner. So again, the Green Bay interior O line is going to be facing a third elite interior defensive lineman for the third week in a row. And then Sebastian Joseph Day is just a steady run defender. And Tavondre Sweat has been pretty solid his first couple games in the NFL. And it'll be, again, up to the interior O-line to get movement or at least seal those guys off so that, Jacobs and Wilson can get some action rolling in the ground game. And
Travondre Sweat weighing in at 366, and then you got Keandre Coburn weighing in at 332. There's a lot of meat along that line.
yeah, like Coburn has probably never been the smallest guy on his roster. He's just like, okay.
With Sweat, so I think he figured he got away from Sweat from college and made it to Tennessee, and that he was going to be the big guy, and then Sweat shows up, and he's no longer the bigger guy.
Yep. And then move to the second level. You've got Harold Landry is the name to watch. A guy that I wanted in the 2018 draft. It's been a pretty steady pass rusher, speed threat off the edge. He's got like 3.5 sacks already on the season, and has been just a productive, steady player. And the rest of their linebackers, so they got, and Ernest Jones is a good player. But the other two spots, Kenneth Murray and Arden Key, those are two, former first round picks who have been more, not less substance than their draft status has built them to be. So you hope that you can take advantage of those guys a little bit. But again, the key is going to be how much you can control that interior D line. And so you can get your blockers to the linebacker level to, hopefully spring Jacobs again a couple times this week. And then on the back end, it's just a collection of guys who are really good players for other teams and are, still playing solid ball at this point. So Chidobe Awuzie, who Packers fans should be familiar with from his stops in Dallas and Cincinnati. Amani Hooker, you're very familiar with Amani Hooker. He's been a great. He was the other safety that Darnell was the first one, and Amani was the other safety I really wanted in that 2019 draft. And Amani has bore that out very well for himself. Um, and then Condre Diggs and Jamal Adams, but Condre is the one that actually starts come over from the Seahawks. And then the big name acquisition is L'Jarius Sneed coming in from the Chiefs. So a good solid secondary. Some of these guys are a little bit longer in the tooth, but how Green Bay's O-line handles the pressure and the distinction between whether Love starts or Willis starts is going to be a key to how effective I think those defensive backs can be.
And he's been playing pretty well so far this year. So they've got some guys back there that they can rotate in and out. You hope Jordan can go, but if you had to sit him for another game, this is probably the one I would avoid just to get him fully healthy, just because I don't want him to take the hits.
Yeah,
And depending on what the Packers
don't mind that.
throwing shit over there. Depending on what the Packers offensive line looks like, because I know they're saying they're not too worried about the injury report, but that's three out of the five starters. Yeah, it's Wednesday, but that's still 3 out of the 5 starters.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is, I'm agreeing with you, is like, they can say all they want that they're confident, but, another couple days roll around of DNPs, and it's like, all right, like,
Yeah.
and I guarantee you, if Elton is even questionable, they're gonna think twice about getting Love out there against Simmons, and the pressure that Landry can get off the edge. And this isn't to say that Willis is like lamb to slaughter or anything like that, but you're gonna put the guy out there who can run around and protect himself better. So yeah, you can't. As good as Love looked, it was only shells today. It wasn't a full pad practice. You're never gonna see him get hit in practice anyway, so you don't know how that thing is really reacting under quote unquote true stress and stuff. So they're gonna play it safe, but like you said, it would make a massive difference this week as opposed to like last week against the Colts, because cat's out of the bag on all. I'm sure LaFleur still has more stuff he could go to with Willis at quarterback, but a lot. I know he used a lot of bullets coming out of the bag on Sunday against the Colts, so that's on film. And then this is just a much better defense than the Colts defense overall. As good as certain players on the Colts defense are, this unit is just top down a better unit. So, like you said, it helps that it's another AFC opponent. So while yes, every game counts and matters, dropping this one would hurt less than if Love gets dinged up again and misses the rivalry, the division game next week against the Vikings. So they've got to act prudently. And like you said, this kind of leaks into that idea that maybe Love is practicing with, a mix of the second string with some first stringers, and Willis is getting the bulk of the first string reps and stuff. So a lot of nuance there, but I'm sure that LaFleur is keeping his cards, as many cards in his hand as possible.
Right. So because they don't do anything. All you're going to do is get a bunch of coach speak. Once in a great while, you may get a quotable thing from a coach, but.
And it only ever happens in two moments. It's when they just pull their pants down because they're fed up with the world, or it's like a complete brain fart, like, I'm getting old and senile, and it just slips out kind of moment and stuff.
I'll throw a third one in there that it's, the reporter asked such a dumbass question.
Right. And I throw that more into the pull my pants down, because it's like, it's just like, here it is. Like, that question is so dumb, I'm just going to show you all of my ass in response to it.
Saying that LaFleur has shown his hand, I think there's a shit ton more that he's got planned that he can bust out now that Malik has a little bit more time in the offense, that he can say, all right, we've got them to where they know that, because let's face it, they're going to have a hard time running on this Titans defense.
just like I said, all they got to do is run their two beefy guys out there, and that takes up half the line. So now that Malik is a little bit more into it, and if he gets the start, that's where the play action can start stepping up. That's
And
where, yeah,
I was gonna say that's where, as much as I was kind of irritated that they didn't use a lot of it last week, it's kind of good in retrospect that they were able to win without using a lot of play action RPO looks. Where it's like you said, that part of the playbook is definitely still in the bag. And JT O'Sullivan did a great breakdown on what few play action and RPO looks the Packers did use, but I do agree there that there should be a lot more in the bag. I'm talking more about the run stuff, but I agree. There's definitely stuff that everything in LaFleur's playbook is a counter to something else. So instead of throwing the ball out to Jaden Reed, you hand it off this time or whatever and all. So
they still haven't run Wildcat, and they still haven't run the option. So that's a couple things still left in there.
yep. So and then this is just, no matter who's the starting quarterback, not that any game shouldn't be, but this one in particular is a every drive that ends in a kick is a good drive kind of game, because this is a good defense and you're facing an offense that plays with one hand tied behind its back because of how careless Levis is with the ball and how bad this O line is. So ball security is going to be an absolute premium. You can't be fumbling the ball going into the end zone this week and losing points that way. Got to make your field goal kicks, but just end every drive in a kick. And I don't think the Packers will be disappointed this week. But other than that, Joe, I feel like we're just going to be going on more levels of conjecture. So do you want to just go into over-unders at this point?
Sure, I don't have any. I'll have to come up with them off the top of my head. I got busy and forgot all about it.
No, and I didn't type notes. Same thing. So we're going by this. We're going by the seat of our pants on this one.
Obviously, the big thing is not necessarily over under, but it's a yes no. Does Love play? I know I'm waiting for you to answer so I can.
Where's my coin? Where's my lucky coin? I'm gonna say no, just for the sake that I'm not gonna jinx it by saying yes, and I know that negates the reverse jinx, but I'm just gonna say no because, and I'll just preface it by they're gonna be extra cautious. Like you said, this matchup is a little wonky, and I would feel differently if the O line wasn't, and like I said, as much as LaFleur is playing it off, I would feel way better if like Jess Morgan was listed and we knew that was an injury already, as opposed to and Rashid and Elton are all and Josh. And I know Josh is kind of rollover from because he rolled the ankle when Love got hurt in Brazil too. So, but at the same time, like you said, you don't like seeing 60% of your O line on the injury list going into a game when your starting quarterback is also returning from injury potentially.
And I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to obviously say yes, just because it's going to be a 4 to 5 week thing. And I love today that even Rappaport was fucking backtracking on what he said. And oh well, he was the big one that was him and Schefter were saying, oh well, it's going to be a 4 to 5 week injury, and well now it's all changed. And, oh well, he could play this weekend. Well, way to fucking hedge your bets on things, guys.
And we kind of both talked about it where it honestly they're not wrong in the sense that in a perfect world, like if you were to simulate this out in a computer, the computer would sit Love out for that long till the thing is fully healed. But it does just come down to whatever apparatus they put on it to the sleeve or whatever that they put on that knee, if and he's comfortable moving around and the medical team like evaluates him and they're like, yeah, that's a guy who can protect himself, move in the pocket enough, and if he gets pulled down by someone, it's not going to just pop on him again, kind of thing. So yeah, I agree that
you give me a week with him. I almost healed my plantar fasciitis on my right foot with some of the shit that I was doing. So you give me a week with him, and I think I can get him ready to go. So yeah, Packers, give me a call. Flea, give me a call, Flea. I'll help you out. Lots of Tim's unit and braces and ice. But and I agree with you that that's what typical, but I never believed that this was a typical MCL sprain just because the way he was moving after the game. And I know you can't always go out, well, this, but I said from the beginning, they're not going to let him walk around like that after the game. They're not going to let him carry his own baggage. They're not going to let him go up and down the stairs if he had a more serious injury. So that's why I kept saying 2 weeks. Well, if you think about it, by the time Sunday hits, it'll be over. So I fully expect him to. I'll put it 75% that I'm pretty sure that he'll play. 25% is there just in case. The odd chance, like you said earlier, he wakes up the next morning and his knee ballooned up from swelling, or he stepped on something wrong, or it just doesn't feel right, or whatever. But yeah, so I'm going to say yes for that. So we'll do this because, like I kind of alluded to earlier, it's going to be interesting to see with all the beef on the Titans' defensive line. Over under, and I'm just gonna do a magic number here because, like I said, I haven't done any research on anything or any whatever. Over under 20 and a half carries for Josh Jacobs.
Over. I think it's over. Over for Green Bay to win. It's got to be over. And even if they're losing, I think it's going to be over. But yeah, I think it's just going to be one of those kind of games.
And to be honest, I think it's going to be under. I think they'll give Jacobs a fair shake, but I think they'll have to, because I think they'll have to do a lot of splitting the backs because, again, this defensive line is a big, beefy line that these running backs are going to get wore down pretty damn quick if you don't, because of all the pushing and hits and everything that they're going to take. So I think they're going to do a heavy dose of Jacobs. I think he hits about the 19 and maybe 20 on the dot carries, but you're also going to get a rotation of Emmanuel Wilson in there, maybe the kid that they just put on the 53, that
Cooper or Brooks, yeah,
is it Brooks or I
Brooks.
think
It's Brooks.
last week.
Chris Brooks.
and maybe it might not even be him, but they elevate Ellis Merriweather for one of his elevations. But I think they're just going to have to do a bunch of it, whether Malik is starting or whether Jordan's starting. As a team, they may hit over 30 carries, but I don't think they're going to do, especially with as hot as it's supposed to get down there.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'll do this one again, since I'm on record for calling this or saying predicting what's going to happen. Over under half an interception for Xavier McKinney.
I'm going to say no just to keep the magic rolling.
Well, we're not even at the halfway point of the season, so I got to say over just because
You're
I will even predict how it happens. It's not going to be an amazing pick or anything. It's going to be another fucking grenade toss from Levis, and Kinney is just going to be in the area.
Honestly, that's all you've got to be. And, as much as everyone, whether it's a spectacular play or not, you just got to take advantage of opportunities. That's the big name of the game here. So, yeah, I'm all for it regardless of how it comes to the Packers.
And then the last one I'm going to keep throwing on here just because, and not just because it's hope, but because of the lack of offensive line that the Titans seem to have. I'm going to do over under 2.5 sacks for the Packers defense.
Over. I think for the first time this season, this D-line is going to really get unleashed on an opponent, and we're going to see them just rip apart this O-line. Because like I said, Skoronski is the best one, and that's almost by default more than it. I hate talking bad about a former Packers, the blood of a former Packer, but yeah, it's not a good unit.
And I'll be honest, I'm on record that I wasn't really high on Skoronski anyway. I mean, I thought he had ability, but not like round one top tier
He
ability.
falls into that same bin that we've been talking about Morgan and Graham Barton when Barton was mentioned as a pick for the Packers this year
Well,
too.
I thought he was too upright. He needed to get lower in his. We go off on all over
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah.
I'm going to take the over just because, yeah, I think their O line is going to be rough. I think you hit the nail on the head with the last 2 weeks why there hasn't been as much sacks as Packer fans expect just because they had running quarterbacks. I know there are guys out there that are calling that excuse bullshit, but it's the truth. Because just because the sack numbers aren't there doesn't mean the pressure numbers aren't there. And I seem to think that I saw something that PFF has the Packers in the top 5 or top 10 of pressure rate. So that tells me that once they're done being conservative with a running quarterback, which Levis isn't like the typical pocket passer, he can get out and move, but it's not like a Richardson or a Hurts or whatever. So he's kind of that hybrid.
Yes, that's a good analogy, honestly.
So I'm going to say, yeah, they're going to go over on that. So that's all I got.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for tonight. We've battled through our tech issues for the week, and hopefully, the Packers will battle through and come through. Get over 500 for the first time this season. So, uh, please check out our website ohanapackers.org. You can get all the episodes from us from Cheese Talk Radio are on there. All of our posts from our great writers are going up, and just and the merch, the shop. I was like, what is the last thing? Of course, it's the merch in the shop. Duh. So support us, please. Keep our writers happy and writing. And get some cool stuff for you. Joe has put together a really great catalog and continues to add things as ideas pop up, mainly from things that go on during the season. So we've always got new ideas sprouting and coming around the corner for you guys. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Ohana_Packers. Got to be following that to be eligible for drawings and any sort of questions that we post and stuff. Please follow the podcast on your favorite podcasting apps, giving us a like and a subscribe. And all of your comments, positive, negative, please give them to us. We want to be creating the content you're looking for. Packers are looking to get, like I said, above 500 on the 2024 season. That will need to be taken care of in Tennessee against a stout defense and a questionable offense. But that's it. That's Iowa Joe. I'm Mike. Go Pack Go, and aloha.